Live tonight for the virtual Pocono Raceway, LSR TV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round 12 of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, where we say hello from the Poconos for the Pocono Mountain 75, round 12 of this 2019 campaign. And we're happy that you're along for the ride with us on a Monday night on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. An interested one on deck, Justin Prince, as we welcome everybody else into the booth with us tonight from the Tricky Triangle, a racetrack unlike any other we've been to this season, and vice versa on the way out. It really is one of a kind.
Yes, indeed it is. It's a track with 3 different types of corners. Very long straightaways, one of the longest front straightaways in all of motorsports. One of the widest front straightaways in all of NASCAR. It's going to be a tough race for some of these drivers. On top of that, though, with this package to try and either move up to the field or in some cases try and survive what is the very tricky triangle. And this is going to be a tough race, though, on top of that, Evan, because of course, with this package is going to change how the complexion of this race is going to go for some of the drivers, especially in terms of the draft for some of the cars. Because we've seen in real life, as noted just earlier today on SiriusXM Speedway by Vince Welsh, lots of teams up and down the garage area were surprised that the draft didn't have as big of an impact. On iRacing, however, you can gain up to 2/10 if you fall behind somebody's draft to try and make the pass down the straightaway. This is going to set up a lot of possible passing opportunities, and like the comparison I brought to IndyCar last week, a lot of drivers potentially going down to the bottom, then back to the high side to try and break the momentum of the car behind.
Well, and it really is a fun racetrack as well to drive on. Of course, you have those, 3 very unique corners, and it does make it a fun place to get around. You mentioned Indy cars. Those are a ton of fun to drive here, and there are still some questions of what we're going to see here tonight with this 2019 rules package on these Cup cars. Of course, over the weekend, it was a very strung-out race. On the sim, though, for the entirety of 2019, it has been a lot of fun watching these cars. I know that still stylistically, some of the drivers may not necessarily like or agree with how the race cars are now designed, but it keeps people together. And for tonight's race distance of 75 laps, that we go racing for just a sliver under 188 miles. They're going to have plenty of opportunity on short runs and long runs, I think, to feel these cars out. Will it be a lot more condensed than what we saw over the weekend?
I think for these drivers, it could be fairly condensed for some of these positions because with the amount of temperature swings we might be expecting tonight, there might be a lot of drivers who might overcook the right front tires and end up dropping to the back. This might be a race of comers and goers, and drivers who are able to maintain pace, maintain their tires, and be able to figure out the best strategy to come away with the checker flag this evening.
Well, the qualified practice sessions, they have all drawn to a close. So let's go trackside. Take a look top to bottom at our LSR TV starting grid for round number 12 of this 2019 campaign. We'll start all the way up front with the Mountain Dew Baja Blast Chevrolet of Thomas J. George. He'll start on pole position tonight in his number 9 Chevy, a 51.545 best of them all to Jonathan Cadell in the 69 Toyota, who will be on the outside of the front row in the number 2 position. Back on row 2, Jeremy E. Miller starts third tonight. Jason Jacoby will roll from the number 4 spot, and the 48 machine of Brad Bohr rounds out your top 5 qualifiers.
In 6, Shane Parrish, who is on top of the practice boards with the help of draft. He'll start in front of row number 4, which features 2 teammates, Andrew Freenosh, the points leader entering tonight, and Dylan C. Jones. Daniel E. Eberhardt is back after serving a multiple race suspension. He qualified 9th on the grid as number 90 machine. Brian Chambliss rounds out the top 10.
Continuing on through Tom Morano just outside of that cut. He'll be 11th position in qualifying. Eric Stanford alongside him will start from 12th. Anthony Fredericks gets to be tonight's 13th starter in Rockstar Energy Camry. He's along with Sean Kalis, who rolls from 14th position, and then just behind them, it's the number 2 car, Nicholas Caldwell, in 15th.
Tom Nobosad, who won his first race in his first start a few weeks back, starts in 16th. With David Washington, Scott Brotherton rounding out the drivers to recorded times in 17th and 18th. The rest of the grid, it's a toss-up. A lot of drivers elected not to put in a time and start at the back. Those drivers include guys like Skylar Shackelford, Scott McClendon, Andrew T. Jones, Jeremy Rinenberg, and Kurt Rinenberg, Blake O'Connell, along with Matt Miller, Connor Horn, Kyle Kammer, as well as John Fowler to round out the 28 drivers set to take the green flag today.
Look top to bottom at your LSR TV starting grid. And as the field rolls to turn 1, Justin, let's talk some specifics about this Pocono Raceway. 3 quarters, and they are all very different. You'll see we'll head off to turn 1. It is a wide, sweeping turn. It also has the most banking out of any of them. 14 degrees will lead to the back straightaway, which is a 3,000-foot backstretch into the tunnel turn 2. That one down to 8 degrees of banking, and it is the tightest corner on the circuit. Another 1,700-foot short backstretch into turn 3, where it is another wide sweeping one with less than half the banking that turn 1 sees. Only 6 degrees of banking down there. Of course, Pocono on its restarts known for the front straightaway that's nearly 4,000 feet long. So a very unique racetrack. It is difficult, and it doesn't necessarily come up in this circumstance because you get all these drivers running with that same setup. But when it comes to building cars, and that is a factor in this iRacing setup, and it's also going to affect how the drivers take this, Justin. The car is going to be better at some parts of the racetrack than at others. When you're in a corner that you're not good at, you just have to get through it without losing time and maybe pick and choose which corners you see you're better at and almost take those as passing zones, very similar to like a road course. You got to pick your moves here. They're not going to come everywhere.
Exactly. A lot of the drivers today might try and set themselves out of turn number 3 to try and make the pass down that long front straightaway, while others might wait until the exit of turn 1 and then try and get the run into the short chute and force the driver up on top to try and break early. It's going to be a wild race. We're about to get underway, though.
This car's off and in. It is Thomas J. George's field to control. Let's go racing from Pocono. Round 12 of 2019. We'll race to turn 1. And how wide do we spread them back in the pack? 3 wide for a couple of rows just outside the top 5. But the battle for the race lead is there to be won by the 9 car on the inside.
And he got a heck of a push from behind from Jeremy E. Miller. Already up to second spot with a heck of a start of this race. Andrew Freenach, though, who didn't have much drafting practice in preparing for this race, already trying to battle for 6th.
In contact almost for second position. It's all in the same group here. That 23 of Miller lost a little bit of speed off the quarter. Jacoby was on his bumper. And here comes Andrew Farinash to the inside line. In the Exalta Ford, 2 tires below the yellow line. It'll maintain his track position, but he didn't gain anything else. The other 4 cars who took that wider arc stayed in front. And in fact, it's Eberhardt challenging to the outside with a better run out of turn 3. He'll almost clear the 88 down to turn 1. They'll be 2 by 2, and they will in front as well for second as Cadell tries to take it back. The 23 of Miller holds the outside line.
And some of the drivers are actually downshifting already just on the second lap. That was something we discussed before the start of this race, where some drivers may try and do that to add more RPMs and more acceleration to be able to rotate off the corner. Looks like guys like Cadell are already doing that through 1 and 3.
And no surprise that that's going to be the MO right off of the bat here, as drivers want to protect what they've got. They know how difficult it could be to pass later in a run for the Pocono Raceway. The 48 of Boer slides wide at a 3. This could hurt. The 3 to the inside. And look at Eberhardt trying to get around Jacoby. A big block by the 3 car to hold the inside. We'll go 3 wide. Eberhardt going to go to the middle. He'll slice high into 1. And I think Jason Jacoby is going to win that fight because that aggressive block block, maintain the inside. That's exactly where he wanted to be, and it does pay off. In front of them, a flip of the script. It's Cadell to the outside of Miller this time, at the same line that Jeremy used to hold him off before. Will be the lane into which Cadell makes the move as the natural light Toyota back into second place.
And the more they change these positions, Evan, the more it's going to help Thomas J. George. He's already pulled away by 1.1 seconds and had the fastest time by just about a tenth because of that back and forth situation. If the more you go side by side, the more your side draft, and the more risk it ends up losing more time. So look at the difference just side by side. Jeremy Miller and Jacoby are, how much they're losing to Cadell just because of that.
Oh, and some contact that time as looked like it was Everhart who moved down a little bit earlier into the corner. Jacoby wanted a later arc. It'll help him with the banking down there. Almost gets by the 23, but it cannot get all the way around him, so he stays in line to the inside, and it is Miller pushed by Everhart to the tunnel turn.
And these bump drafts are starting to get a little interesting. I think Everhart's got to be a little more cautious at this point, though, with the way this race is starting to shape up. He is going to get some help, though, from behind. It looks like Freenotch is going to give him some shoves to try and get his momentum going, help him recover, and help him try to line up or even potentially try and draft their way by Jacoby.
We'll see if that is going to play out. Jacoby and the rest of this group, Miller, Cadell, they all have allowed Thomas J. George to get away. We haven't said the name of your pole sitter really since the was able to take the lead, maintain it rather off of turn one on the opening lap. He's pulled already a second and a half out clear with all of that clean air. Atop Cadell, who's second. Miller is third. That is kind of decided upon. And then this fight with Jacoby, Everhart, and Friedars all on top of each other for positions 4, 5, and 6 is where we see all of the fun. And too wide through the tunnel turn is not something I would suggest 5 laps into a 75-lap contest. Denani wanted to hold it. He does. It'll be Jacoby high side in turn 3. That should give him a good opportunity to clear here. But a great corner by Everhart. Going to keep him nose to nose.
Yeah, while you get a somewhat better launch off on the high side, that bottom side of the racetrack is still the preferential line for trying to make a pass, I think, out of turn number 3, because you'll be able to get a bit more of a run on the exit. And if you're on that high side, you have to slow down a lot more to try and make sure you don't tap the outside wall and try and make sure you're still able to try and get that launch. It just is not that preferential line you want to be on. You want to be on that bottom to be able to try and gain time on the racetrack. But as this has been going on, George has been, in some cases, already been setting lap times half a second quicker than second spot in Cadell.
Yeah, last lap he did get another 10th, a 52.848 compared to a 9.38 for Cadell. So George certainly enjoying the weather and the view up at the very front, as I think for the first time this evening we are single file through the top 10. Of course, the long straightaway changes that. How about the 98 of David Washington? He's now on the attack. Started 17th up to 13th. He wants to go to the inside of the 48 Chevy Abor, so they'll go 2x2 into the corner. The 98 machine looked like he wasn't going to be able to hold it off, but he does. He'll get that spot. And Skylar Shackelford, who has a fast race car and wants to make up for a poor Q effort, is on the charge as well. Doesn't dare, though, to go 3 wide. He'll stay behind the 98.
Yeah, as I noted a little bit during the grid, Shackelford, one of those drivers that elected not to put in a qualifying time. However, when he was in the draft, he was one of the fastest overall in practice, 5th quickest. So he is able to manage that draft. He's just got to pick his battles. I think that's what they're trying to do, especially knowing that you don't want to burn up the tires and drop back, but you also want to be able to get a lot of key track position, especially if, say, something was to happen to bunch everyone back up.
You can see right now as well the 12 back to the inside line, so Shackelford really feels like he's going to be able to get up and around and do something if he can just clear this group. He was the 5th fastest car in practice, but only the 19th fastest on the grid because he opted not to qualify. So the 12 got that position based on being basically the number 1 provisional, but he does have his work cut out for him. Tight that time and leaned all over the 48 car.
Yeah, Bohr's not actually giving them much space. He wants to try and fight this position. It's actually very aggressive and very hard to try and hold on to it because of those runs you can get on the bottom. He's actually nearly door slamming Shackelford, trying to hold up his momentum a little bit at this point. He's going to have to get some help to try and clear by, though, because the more he stays up there, the more that right front tire is going to melt. And it's not just as simple as backing off the gas and getting towards the bottom, because some drivers, right here you'll see, McClendon will not give him that kind of space. These drivers behind will pounce. They're going to go 3 wide, nearly off to the apron.
Very inside, it's McClendon. The middle belongs to Shackelford, and still up top is Brad Bohr, where he's been for the last 2 times around, but he bails out of that one, lets the 12 car go. And look at Sean Kalis to the inside now. He'll go 3 wide again with the left side tires on the apron. And they are going to get to the long sleeping and the very limited banking turn 3. As you see the 43 of Kalis, just you can't make that car stick on the inside. You really need to arc that turn, and it'll hurt him down the straightaway here, though. O'Connell will give him a shove, and just as quickly as we thought we had gotten away from some of these groups of 4 or 5, you're seeing one now, and a battle inside of the top 10 sees Shane Parrish and Jeremy Miller fighting for 7th and 8th.
And I think he might have cooked his tires, because he's dropped all the way from as high as in the top 5, and he's dropping in quick. Last time by at the stripe for Miller, he ran a 55.2. Everyone else in the top 10 is still in the 54, so he's overdriven that race car, and he's going to have to hope that he can pilot that thing up to the first pit stop window or a caution flag without being said yellow.
See how this plays out. Miller started the race in 3rd position. We are very young into what would be a green flag run if it can stay green. 10 laps complete as of that time by the start-finish line, and kind of a good plug as any, Justin, to talk a little bit about the strategy in this race. We were talking to pre-race with a 75-lap race distance that it is maybe possible to stretch it out and make a one-stopper. You said 36 to 38 laps or so. That range is the fuel window. Well, of course, if you could go 38 laps, you could go 75 if you stopped right smack dab in the middle. So it is not impossible. There was no early yellow flag. So, I mean, if you get one now and you come down to the pit lane, which everybody will because they'd want tires, then it would be very easy to go one stop to the end. But if it stays green, it's very close. And another point that we made is it's not simply a question of if you can do it, then do it. It's also, do you want to stay out there on old tires? It's going to come down to tire degradation. Is a 2-stopper will take you to more time off of the racetrack to come down to the pit lane one more time. You're going to get fresher tires. More of your laps are going to be put down with better lap times. Now, of course, those are the decisions up to the crew chiefs and all of the drivers who have been practicing. In the 9-car, Thomas George, your race leader, is sideways in turn 1, and he's going to have to pull that car over from the number 1 position. The 9-car is going to have to pull over. Caution flag now out.
He just money shifted it. He tried to go down to 3rd gear and over-rev the engine, immediately blew the engine up. That's why he went sideways that quick and had to stop on the racetrack. An absolutely major mistake to have that happen. Because if you don't downshift underneath around 6,800 RPMs, you risk blowing up that engine. That's exactly what George just did.
You downshift, the RPMs are going to go up, but if you're in too high of a rev still down it into the corner, they're going to get to a dangerous level, and he just blew that car up. He had a pretty sizable margin at the time, and the engine just blows up, and he is done. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, your race leader who had led all up to that point 12 laps of the Pocono Mountain 75 is out. Andrew Freitas gets the yellow quickly because he came to a stop down on the inside line, and Thomas J. George just confirming with everybody that he didn't really get into the corner like he would have wanted. He was out of the racing groove, still shifted like he normally would have, and lost the engine. Not happy, but that car coming to a stop brought out the yellow. Freitas and Cadell were all over each other, so that would have been a great battle for the race lead. It doesn't happen. We go under caution flag conditions, and that kind of negates that whole minute spiel I went on about maybe stretching it on fuel, because certainly everybody's going to want service here.
Yeah, everybody's going to come down for this one, and it's going to make it interesting the rest of the way, the strategy, though, because it's still, even with this, going to be at least a one more stop afterwards if we end up going green. And on top of that, George was actually starting to get reeled in because Freenosh and Cadell were starting to work together in the draft. That lead was starting to come down and quick. They might have reached him in about a lap or so and was ready to bring that up, and then kaboom goes that engine. Now, everyone's going to be, at the very least, able to get on the same strategy to try and see who's going to be able to take advantage of the fresh tires here, because the track temp has shifted around a little bit since qualifying and practice already.
The pit lane open for the first time at lap number 13. Everybody is in. Andrew Freitas went from 7th to 1st on that first run of the race. After really passing 5 cars, though, to get to that point, he has at number 7 pit stall. Better pit positioning for Cadell, who's on his bumper. We'll see how important pit stops are tonight. Justin, they were certainly very critical at Charlotte a couple of weeks ago, but everybody in looking for 4 tires and fuel.
It's going to be crucial to have a good pit stop here, as I think Miller missed the pit box. That's not going to help him. So Jeremy E. Miller's going to have to go all the way to back and lose all his track position all of a sudden because he missed his stall. Cadell overran his, and that means a lot of mistakes are coming in. But your new race leader is still Andrew Freenosh.
Wins the race off of the pit lane. It is he, followed by Cadell, Eberhardt, Parrish, and Chambliss. So the only change amongst all of those drivers is Jason Jacoby, the number 3 car, with a big delay. And, of course, he'll end up mid-pack or so as he just now kind of blends himself back out and onto the racetrack. Freitas, though, not going to be credited as the race leader. Jeremy E. Miller stayed out. In fact, actually, he did come down to the pit lane. The 23 was in, just missed this pit stall, drove straight through. So he will certainly, I believe, come around either this lap or the next time by. That really hurts, though, because we were making a point on that run that he kind of needed a yellow. It looked like he had eaten up those tires, Justin. It was falling back. All of a sudden, he gets the yellow, blows the pit stop, and now he's going to be all the way to the back of the pack.
Yeah, he just drove right on by it. He, again, started up in 3rd in this race. He had one of the last pit stalls. And just, I don't even know what to say. I just looked like he had a brain cramp there and just completely forgot where he was supposed to stop. Now, he's going to go all the way back to 25th position because I don't think he can stay out on these tires. There's no way. It's going to be too much of a risk at this point. Should note as well, though, we did have a driver get the free pass. Connor Horn, who missed the start, is still 2 laps down last time at the stripe. And is still going to have to make up a lot of time because he did not make the green flag.
Connor Horn, somebody else who has had a couple of weeks in a row here of some fantastic runs with the win in the All-Star 2 weeks back, seemed poised to take win at Charlotte just a week ago, but it was not meant to be. He is looking for a little bit of luck to turn his way. Long way to go, so, never say never, but being 2 laps down still at the first caution flag at a race, less than ideal, certainly for him. And just to go back to the point of Miller, I'm not surprised that the 23 car stayed out there. I think he did so just to lead the lap. He'll get a bonus point, and he will, though, I agree, have to come down to the pit lane. He'll get absolutely eaten alive on the restart, but I guess dropping it outside of the top 20, top 25 with a bonus point already secured isn't as bad as doing so without. So he figured he was going to lose all the track position anyways. I would expect him to pit this time, and I believe we'll be looking for the lights of the pace car to go out and get the one to go.
Yeah, I believe so. I just noticed this too. Right as that caution flag came out, you might see on that right front fender, Miller actually creamed the wall as George was coming to a stop trying to make a pass on the back end of what looks like Chambliss. So Miller's not only going to have to get his 4 tires and fuel, one to go signal, he's going to have some aerodynamic damage, which at that part of the car, with this setup specifically, that could absolutely kill any chance to suck up on the back of some of the drivers with this package. That might be a killer situation now for Miller.
And if we buy into the fact that, drafting is very important as he does dive down to the pit lane, as we saw with, Freitas and Cadell drafted up to our race leader, Thomas George, at the time, that we will certainly see, how all of that plays through and if it is indeed as important as it is. But the rest of your race leaders going to drive on through here. The lights on top of the pace car are out, so we will get set for a restart that will have 16 laps complete in this race of the 75 to board. Long way to go. And again, you don't really have to stretch it quite as far because the magic number now on fuel would be 30 per run. So that's the situation we're in.
Yeah, again, you still, I think at this point, have to at least come in one more time, but with about 59 laps to go, it makes it easy. Just basically split this race in half. With about 30 laps to go, you can basically come in, get your fuel, go from there to make things a bit more interesting for this one. But it's going to be, again, going to come down to, is it going to stay clean? Is it going to be a strategy race? Curious to see how these strategies work out because, again, the fall-off difference, if we go green, could be, again, 4 seconds a lap between fresh tires and new ones.
It is Friedars and Cadell on the front row, Eberhard Parrish on the second, with Brian Chambliss rounded out your top 5. Full running order going across the top of your screen. Again, 16 down, and I believe that'll put us at still 59 to go. This time through. Still 25 cars at the lead lap. Connor Horde is 2 laps down. Having missed the start of the race, Thomas George is out of this race into the garage after losing the engine in turn 1, and John Fowler DNS'd. Did not start this one after taking some times earlier this evening in the practice session. We'll see if Fernandez wants to get out and get way away for the rest of the field, or if he'll sit back at a race start. It is the 88's field of control as the pace car dives down and in. It is a very early jump. Green flag back in the air, and a fantastic restart as well for Eberhard, who's right there with him to turn 1.
And Cadell just messed that up, I think. He didn't even get to the outside of Freenosh on that start. Should have been much more lined up, and that bunched up everybody on the outside line. Why they're going now 3 wide on the exit of turn number 1, trying to fight for position behind them.
They were 3 wide right off of the restart, and right now the 3 wide sees Shackelford's number 12 Chevy in the middle. He doesn't seem comfortable there, though, especially when you get down to the tunnel turn here. It is dicey enough 2x2, so he tucked in line very quickly, chose the outside, and it'll pay off. He got behind Fredericks, and both he and the 4 car get around the 48. A Boer who drives it in really hard to turn 3. I thought he had given it up. He tried to make an effort. It doesn't stick, but a spirited attempt from that 48 machine does it pay off, as it'll open up the inside for the 67, Blake O'Connell, who had a great run last week in his 2019 debut.
Yeah, O'Connell looked really impressive and had some strong pace in the last race on the schedule. And I still expect him to maybe be in the conversation for a top 10 if he can drive this setup. He struggled a little bit in practice with it, I should note. Again, he was one of those drivers that smacked the wall trying to get used to the tightness. But I think if he's able to get some good consistent laps together and not do that, he'll be okay.
We'll see if he's going to keep the momentum going here. A little bit tight that time as they came off at 2, but all is well. And
he's driving the corners. That's why he's sliding so much up, Evan.
And we'll see back to the point of...
Whoa, trouble in front.
Into the wall, it's the number 98 car, and the 4 is in it as well. A big problem now. Caution flag is out. It started with David Washington. We both saw the sparks. It was just in front of the battle that we were watching. And you want to talk about overdriving a corner, Justin? That's exactly what Washington did. The least banked corner on the racetrack means you got to be as patient as you will be anywhere else on track. He just drove it in too hard. It almost looked like he followed Dylan Jones. Jones brushed the wall, but Washington smacked it, came back up in front of the 4. He and Fredericks were started bouncing off of the other cars, and it turned into a huge melee on the front straightaway.
Yeah, he just arrow pushed straight up towards the fence on top of overdriving that corner, trying to follow his teammate. Way too high up. I think he got on the gas maybe about 10-15 feet too early. That allowed that push up for both him and his teammate. The thing is, with the arrow push, it's more aggressive the further back you go in the drafting chain. Nowhere for Fredericks to go once he pounced off the wall. And it, again, became a big one. Jason Jacoby got some damage. Huge collisions for McClendon. And everybody else got severe damage at the back end of this top 20.
The 67 machine of O'Connell got hit. He also ended up in the inside wall. He would then tag the 48 of Brad Borer, who spun out into the outside wall. Sean Kalis involved. Matt Miller also involved in this. But I know you mentioned Jason Jacoby. David Washington got crushed up against the wall when he got hit hard by the 51 of Scott McClendon. I think that may account for all of it. Jeremy E. Miller almost got so far. He split the difference on a couple of wrecked race cars, thought he was clear, and then Kayla spun down in front of him. That is the big one. A huge wreck on the front straightaway that involved nearly half of the cars in the field.
And that's going to really shake things up for some of these battles outside the top 10 now, because there's a lot of modifieds now. Jeremy Miller losing his front clip. Todd Novosad amongst that group actually got by cleanly, so this is a good chance for a lot of drivers to gain some points now. But for the ones that were involved, it's going to be a struggle just to be able to keep themselves going and try and gain track position. There's going to be a lot of destroyed cars that are going to have to hope for something, anything, as everyone ducks down to the pit lane.
It is going to be a quick service as everybody comes back down to pit road. Of course, they were just on the pit lane, so obviously tires are important if everybody wants to come down this often, but I mean, for such a short of a run, I think this may be our best chance to see somebody go with just 2 tires if they want to gamble.
It's too much of a gamble at this track, though. You got to remember, it is a large one, 2.5 miles. That means the tires wear really quickly, for obvious reasons. And if you take 2, you can be drastically loose in terms of how your car handles. Again, no one tries to risk it. Freenosh stays in the race lead. Cadell nearly beat him, though. He just spun the tires out of the box.
And that's the second time in a row that the 69 of Cadell has been awfully close, made it a good fight, but that first car down to the pit lane for Freenosh, I guess, overpowers the little bit of a lack of pit position, and I think that pit positioning line as well at Pocono, not quite as aggressive at some of the racetracks. It's Eberhardt off in third with Parrish and Stanford through your top 5, and have an opportunity now to catch up with the driver of the number 9 machine, your pole sitter from this race, George Thomas. I know that you guys obviously were having a good night. You started up front, and I know after the wreck you said you hate this racetrack, but it seemed like you were enjoying it to a certain degree until what happened there in turn 1. Just talk us through it.
This the racetrack, combination of the racetrack, combination of the car plowing tight, because iRacing doesn't like to give us any loose setups anymore, and then just having a downshift still because of that, just to make the corner turn, because I saw the guys coming behind me, and that's partially due to the draft, but it's also in this particular aero package, this limited horsepower, if you get off the throttle, you end up losing so much time that you just doesn't matter at that point. And I mean, I don't know what you can do in that situation there. I thought I got the revs low enough and blipped it, shifted, and went to 9,700. And I'd done that the previous corner when it was at 7,000 in 4th gear and had no issues. So I don't know if it was a mental mistake on my part. It is what it is, but I mean, sucks. It is what it is on that, but I'm going to say something else. I'm watching the broadcast. That 98 keeps wrecking my teammate. I'm going to take care of him, because that's twice now he's done it. And I usually don't try to call anybody out, but I'm going to take care of this, because if he's going to keep wrecking my teammate, it ain't going to happen. But I mean, anyway, so we'll move on to Michigan. We'll get it done, and we'll hopefully you guys have a good rest of the race.
We'll see how it plays out. Again, a lot of wrecked race cars in that last one as we pace at lap number 22. I know it wasn't as long as you would have liked to spend up front, but based on your time there, you talk about the shifting, the tight race car. What do you think it's going to take for whoever to come out on top of this race to tackle the tricky triangle?
It's going to, with the combination of everything, it's probably going to be, you can't make a mistake. You genuinely can't. I mean, you got to make sure your RPMs are just at the right amount, and maybe somebody can figure out something in terms of downshifting at the right point and get everything together. But it just, man, I know we got to race this package, but I really wish we did have some horsepower back. If we're going to downshift, I'd rather have the horsepower than have a package where you have to keep momentum constantly, but then you have to do that. I mean, it's like a road course, so it's just basically the thing I could say is it's going to come down to who can be the strongest in terms of technical ability, who can keep their tires, clean, and who can save them the most. And if we get a late race restart, who's going to have the most cojones to make it 3 or 4 wide for a win.
Came into this race with a healthy 67-point margin over the playoff cut, so it is not going to hurt all too much. Of course, comes down to the end of the year. You might end up looking back on this one as a missed opportunity, but you guys have had good runs. You had a good race car tonight. Certainly a lot of confidence going into the next week. We'll catch you next week. Before we let you jet, Thomas, anybody else you want to say hi to?
Just say hi to everybody back over at Steel Horse. Pretty much, if Milwaukee's watching, hey, I'm still trying to get official sponsorship, but I use your tools to work every day. So, and just thank you guys for broadcasting, Brian for hosting this, and we'll go to Michigan. We'll have some fun there and see what this package brings us there. Can only imagine it's going to be 4 wide on that restart.
Looking forward to seeing that 9 car back on track again. Thomas, thanks for giving us your time here, and we'll catch you next Monday night.
Thank you, Evan.
Big thanks to the driver of the number 9 machine, Thomas George, who, of course, as mentioned, started on a pole position in this race not all that long ago. And unfortunately, while leading the race, lost the engine on a downshift. His night done. He will finish 27th of the 27 cars that started in this race. And, well, a couple of things to point out. A, you heard he wasn't too happy with some of the other cars out there on the racetrack, so stick it up for his Steel Horse teammates. We'll see if that evolves into a storyline at all later this season. But also, Justin, not everybody agreeing to come down to the pit lane. It is going to be the 8 of Kyle Kamer from 28th on the grid, stayed out, and he's your control car as they come out of turn 3.
I think he's trying to hope that there's a quick yell to get track position, because after a couple laps, those tires may fall off. We'll have to see how he fares, though. A late start this time, though, as the green flag waves.
And unlike when it was all freight eyes down to the corner, the 8's got everybody on his bumper. It is going to be side by side and nose to tail, tighter than they were out of turn 3. Look at Jonathan Cadell in the middle line. He tried to make it work. The 8 drives in so deep to turn 1, and it is a very easy move on the outside for freight eyes to go back to the race lead. The 69 and the 90 car go to the outside, and we'll see how far Kyle Kamer's going to get on that bottom.
And I kind of like this move from Kyle, but it was a very high risk, high reward kind of a move. If this thing goes green, he might not gain any positions from this kind of a situation. If he gets a yellow in these next couple laps, he might go from where he was running the back of the field to a top 10. But look how slow he is. They're bunched up like crazy behind him, trying to find a way to get on by as Shackelford dices his way behind Parrish.
He dives to the inside of the 18. That fight for 8th and 9th position. Shackelford really didn't have the run at a turn 3. He needed to sustain it. So they do end up once again single file as they get back down and into the corner. The Kyle Kamer update is right there in the 8 car, just in front of that 18 of Parrish. Looks like he's gotten his water wings back on. He's not drowning as much back into the field. Maybe he can hold his own here once those tires balance out after a handful of laps. Those sticker tires aren't going to have quite as much of an advantage as, of course, they do right off of the line. And side-by-side funny behind him will help as Shackelford goes to the bottom. So toe-to-toe again, we dance for this number 8 position. Brian Chambliss behind's got a front row view in the 45 car.
And if I was Chambliss, I would just sit back and see who's going to be the faster of the 2 cars for this battle and try and help them maybe. But the thing is, with this package, there's such a amount of time you can lose from getting drafted from behind that it can just pull you back towards those kind of cars like Novosad. So if I'm right now, and if I was Chambliss, sit back, be patient, time up your passes, and then try and draft on ahead. Because if you time it up to the wrong spot or try and make the pass too early, guys like Novosad will be able to jump right on by and make it potentially side by side instead and lose you a time, use a spot of track.
Thomas said just how fine that line is. Any sort of a mistake and you can wreck a race car pretty quick. We saw obviously his issue, another series veteran like the 98 David Washington, who he wasn't all too pleased with, but Washington also smacked the outside wall. That's a series vet who wrecked himself and took a bunch of other race cars with him. So especially when you kind of get coaxed into overdriving these cars, when you're in some of these 2 and 3 wide battles, that margin for error is razor thin, as we're single file inside of the top 10. Still watching Kamer try to hold off the field. Parrish was able to get around him, and now Shackelford will give it a try down to turn 2. Does he dare stay on the inside of the tunnel turn? It would be awfully tight. No, the 8 car tries to come down, block, and take the line away. And I think the 12, a little bit timid, didn't commit all the way to the inside. He might try again now to get a good run off of 3 and use that long front straightaway to build up a pass.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's trying to do here, because you can try and pass someone out of the tunnel turn. The thing is, you have to hope for the driver in front of you to end up getting tight and pushing up and having to get out of the gas so much where you're able to just drive to the inside into 3. That time, Shackelford just said, I'm going to be patient, going to time this up for right this moment to get side by side, zoom on by, knowing Kamer's probably braking early, and be able to pass on by. But Novosad's got a problem. He is very tight, and he's dropping back like a rock now.
And not a good set of corners for the 34 Novosad. He lost out in the battle that he would have been kind of going back and forth with the 24 for some time. Again, remember, that's Connor Horn, who's not really in this fight. And now the 8 car with problems. It's Kyle Kamer. The tunnel turn. The 8 car was all kinds of out of shape. He and the 45 at Chambliss got together. I talked about being timid into the tunnel turn. The 45 was not. A late dive, and I think the 8 car paid the price for trying to block a little bit.
I don't think they made contact. I think that was just the air being taken off the left rear quarter panel as that pass was being done. And it just, when you take the air off the spoiler or the quarter panel, you just snap loose. And that just looked like it was the perfect spot to do that. In terms of Kamer having to save that race car, he was lucky to keep it on going.
He does hang on. He lost a ton of momentum. Again, that's the shortest straightaway on the racetrack from turn 2 to 3, but it is still 1,780 feet long. So it is a long trip down to 3, and just like that, Kyle Kamer has trickled back into the number 14 position. You got to remember, he started at the very back of the field in this race, started 28th position, was slated actually to start there, only 27 made the start. So he went for the back to the front, and I guess if he doesn't go all the way back, he doesn't really lose anything on this gamble. But, I mean, his race car could have been junked just like that. And the reason I say he may have been blocking a little bit is because he kind of played that game of chicken with Shackelford there, blocked him going into turn 2, daring him to make a move a lot prior. And obviously the 45 was not playing those games.
Yeah, he was saying, I need to make this move now. What are you doing? I think he wanted to get that position quickly, and he dived it on in, and that was, again, a bold move to try and do, and try and force Kamer to get out of the gas. But why do we head up towards the front now? Because one of the storylines that is starting to pop up, the Aegis cars, they're starting to really be on the move. Right now, they are 4 of the top 5 cars, and they're all catching up to the back end of Cadell all of a sudden.
They have a very strong showing at the moment inside of the top 10. 2 of them side by side now. As you see Jones and Stanford going at it. They do decide to sort that one out before they get off it into the corner. Both of those machines, RealSimRacing to Ford Fusions. Interesting to note that probably the last time we can say that. The Mustangs inbound. Of course, part of that new big build that features trophy trucks and a whole lot more coming to the service tomorrow. So certainly a lot of excitement, and we look forward to seeing those new Mustangs on track very shortly. The 19 of Stanford digging at a 2. He had that back end sideways, and it shot sparks off onto the 03 when he just barely brushed it off of the corner. For as difficult as these cars are to get loose, for how tight they've been, that 19 car of Stanford getting awfully comfortable with the fences. He doesn't get a good exit off of 3, and I think Jones going to get P4 back from him just as quickly as he lost it.
I think the best way to show the issue with his car is on board. 1, he scraped up the right front fender, but 2, you'll see how much wheel he has to put to be able to get around the corner. he is turning it much more aggressive, especially through 2 and 3, to be able to get this car to go around this racetrack. It's to the point now where guys like Jacoby are trying to give him pushes to say, you gotta go, because he is nearly slamming these walls even more so this time. He had a much better corner, tried to use the apron, going 2 tires down below the O line to try and get the car to have a little bit more bite.
And these are obviously drivers who share teams, obviously teammates, so you want to play it cool. The disturber at all of this, the outsider, the 3 adjacent Jacoby, he's going to push the 19 to Stanford down the front straight with the 19. I mean, you mentioned it, very visibly has torn up that right side. The right rear quarter panels pushed quite in. Would tell me that nicking the wall the last lap by was not the only time he's found the safer barrier this evening. Jacoby now with a great run at a turn 1 will slide to the inside. They will go 2 by 2 in this battle for P5 and 6, and game of chicken. Do you stay nose to nose to the tunnel turn? The 19 lifts on his way in, and Jacoby will take the spot.
Yeah, there is the chance if you're on even tires, you can try and let him on by, then try and go for the crossover. At this point, though, I think Stanford's basically saying in his head, I'm struggling with this race car. I'm not going to try and hold people up knowing I'm going backwards with how tight I'm feeling, and try and get things together. Should note that damage, I think, is actually from the back end from getting hit from Jacoby, who gave him a tap about a lap and a half ago into turn number 1, while he was trying to get out of the gas just to get the thing to turn through entry apex.
Just kind of browsing through the top 10 here. One thing that we're seeing on this run that we really haven't seen is that your race leader hasn't been able to get away. I know it's a change of the guard and the longest green flag run we've had since that opening one where it was Thomas George or Pulser out in front. But, Fernandez is only half a second ahead of Eberhardt. Cadell's another half a second back. All of those drivers still close enough to one another. The draft is still factoring in. And, of course, very shortly you're going to start to get into the longest run of the night. Tires uncharted territory, and the rate at which they have been wearing, I'll be interested to see if Fernandez can hold the race lead or if he is, going to start to drop back by maybe overdriving it. There's a couple of cars who have been, maybe not overly aggressive is the right way to say it, but certainly more aggressive than some of the other ones around them that I know we've talked about being in those 2x2 and 3x3 battles more times than not. How are they going to be 20, 25, 30 laps into a run? Well, we're almost at that point on this dash that we're going to find out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see people start to duck down in about 10 laps or so just to get themselves on as early as they can and try and split this race in half, knowing some of the experiences inside the service throughout the past week or so. Because the later you went, the more likely you weren't able to gain a lot of the track position you had back, even on fresh tires. Because the fall off right now is 2.5 seconds. Imagine trying to get that run stretched out. You're not going to gain that much time back even on fresh tires in theory. But I want to give a shout out to the man that's right now trying to find a way to unlap himself. Surprisingly, Connor Horn has drafted his way to the back end of the lead pack and is trying to push forward his teammate in Shackelford. If he does something right here or times himself up right, he might be able to get himself in the lead lap without a lucky dog here.
He was 3 laps down. He did 2 waiver rounds by staying out while everybody else came down to the pit lane to get to 1 lap down. And right now he is behind Shackelford in Shackelford's in 8th. Connor Horn is still scored in 22nd. The benefit he has is at the moment he's the only car lap down, but Blake O'Connell in the 67, that car is now on the access road in turn number 3. He is going to come down to pit road. No, he's just very slow in trying to get back up to speed. Not sure what the issue was for the 67 of O'Connell, but he's going to go a lap down, and then theoretically Connor Horn has to fight for the lucky dog with somebody. If O'Connell's issues are going to take him out of the race, then Horn's going to be quite okay, and the next yellow will help him out. But of course, you have to get the yellow. The 24 just passed Skylar Shackelford, who's been one of the better top 10 cars tonight. He's got speed. He just needs to finish digging himself out of that hole.
Yeah, I think he's in if he gets back on the lead lap, he might be a contender to try and win this race because he's been one of the fastest cars on the racetrack so far, even during this run. He's been faster than Freenosh, in fact. up in that clean air. So I think he just needs to get some luck together to be able to come back onto the lead lap. And if he does get that luck, he might be able to at least get a top 5 out of it. But look what's happening up towards the front. 3 Aegis cars are starting to reel in each other right now. Freenosh, he might be able to get reeled in by Everhart because Everhart's getting really quick, especially down the Long Pond Straight at this point.
It is getting tighter and tighter. In fact, I think Dylan Jones may be the driver up front in the best position out of any of them. He has been able to get up and around Jonathan Cadell, so Cadell now sits in 4th position, and Jones breathing down the neck of Everhart, and therefore Freenosh, because the 88's gap back to the second-placed car is getting smaller as the laps have passed, as we see Everhart graze the fence that time at a turn number 2. This time through, though, we're going to be halfway home in tonight's Pocono Mountain 75. So let's take a look top to bottom at our Ford Entertainment Group midway race break. With 38 laps complete, Freenosh is your race leader. The gap down to 2 car lengths atop of Daniel Everhart. Dylan Jones is 3rd. We'll keep this fight on in the background as we take a look at the running order. Jonathan Cadell, as I mentioned, 4th, and it is Jason Jacoby who rounds out your top 5. Shane Parrish in the number 6 spot. Then there's a battle behind him that sees Eric Stanford in 7th position, battling with the lapped car. Skylar Shackelford behind in 8th. Brian Chambliss is 9th, and Nick Caldwell rounds out your top 10.
11th position right now, Sean Kalis, amongst those drivers that did get some types of damage, but he got the least out of it, it appears. He was able to get up to 11th position. Now Scott Brotherton, he's defending Kurt Redenberg. Kyle Kamer in 14th position after staying out on the last pit stop. But Jeremy Redenberg, Andrew T. Jones, Matt Miller, Todd Nobosad, Brad Bohr, and Jeremy E. Miller round out the drivers in the top 20 and on the lead lap, Evan.
Connor Horn there for 21st position is the first car a lap down. He's passing a lot of the cars inside the top 10, but again, still needs the yellow if he wants to get that wave by. And then also the slow Blake O'Connell entry is a lap down in 22nd, but he is well off the pace and will continue to lose laps if he can't get that car fixed. Everybody else out of the race. That includes Fredericks in 23rd, Morano in 24th, David Washington 25, Scott McClendon 26th, and Thomas George in 27th position. Again, those back 5 behind the wall. And then a DNS for John Fowler, who is just behind them, and made our 28-car grid of 27 cars who actually made it to the start. Caution flag at lap number 40. Trying to find the cause of this one. We'll see Kalis in the 40 car.
The 43, yeah, he ended up hitting the wall out of the tunnel turn. This has been the biggest problem when you have a tight race car at this track. If you are tight and overcook the corner apex or entry, you have the chance to push straight up to the fence. That's what he did. Overcorrected trying to keep it away from the inside wall and ended up shooting sideways. That draws the yellow flag and changes everything because with this caution, everyone is just at the very tip of being able to make it on fuel and should be able to make it just all the way to the end of the race from here.
You saw in the replay, Kalis hit the wall, locked it up. Nothing else comes from that. It was just him, but another single car incident puts us under the yellow flag tonight from Pocono. Should also close out the plug there. That was a look top to bottom at your Ford Entertainment Group midway race break. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorsteps. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group computer. PCs to fit every budget from $540 and up. You can get yours today by going online to www.fegpc.net and mention code LSRTV10 and get your build quoted today. So just inside of the pit window, I guess we could say it may be the final time down to the pit lane this evening. Caution flag trends would disagree with that, but maybe the last time you need to fill the fuel cell up. It'll be 4 tires. Also, it's Freenosh leading Everhart down.
Yeah, from here, you'll still see people, I think, some take fuel because if you have less fuel, that ends up meaning the back end isn't weighed down as much, meaning you end up being much more tighter on the long run, but Cadell overshot his pit box. This might be costly for the 69 machine.
See how it plays out for him as he slid too deep and had to back that car up to get into the box. It didn't look like it was off by much. He'll get his 4 tires, and he loses 3 positions. I think he may have just edged out Jason Jacoby at the very last second, so it'll be down 2 as Eberhardt goes to second position. Jones will get the number 3 spot, and we will see a speeding penalty on the 45, Brian Chambliss.
And he was inside the top 10 in 9th position, but ended up going too fast. The speed limit, mind you, is 55 miles per hour. And basically, it's about an average from line to line you see on that stripe. If you're 56 miles per hour, there's a strong chance you'll end up getting ticked across for a speeding penalty. That's what he was trying to do, go to 56 between the lines. Might have triggered a speeding penalty across one of those with the average, and ends up sending him all the way to the back of the field. This is going to be hard to try and gain a lot of that track position back, but he does have a fast car. However, guess who's on the lead lap because of all that caution madness? Connor Horn on the lead lap with one of the fastest cars on the track.
And that is a big caution for the driver of the 24. Connor Horn, the advantage here also is that because he was the only car a lap down, he didn't have to stay out to get a wave by. So he is back onto the lead lap now, and I believe that means he is going to be able to get service before the ensuing restart. Fresh tires, of course, that would mean that he has a legitimate chance to, fight through the field and fight for some positions here. I don't know if he's going to be able to go 20-ish or so up back into the top 10, top 5. He still got half a race to go, but it's not a ton of time. He does bring it down to the pit lane, so he'll be all the way at the back. He'll get his 4 tires for the first time tonight. Connor Horn going to be a lead lap race car. Also, the 43 Ashad Kalis claiming responsibility for the cause of that caution, so race control going to give him the end of the longest line penalty. Just to kind of tell you how bad the 43's night has been, Justin. Obviously, he hit the wall with the right-hand side of the race car. That's not even the worst damaged part of his car as he brings it down into the box for more repairs.
Yeah, got some damage, of course, from that contact before. The left rear is pushed all up. Especially if you have that quarter panel damaged, it ends up affecting your corner exit, especially, and loses you even a tenth just on that alone. His car's been absolutely beat to heck. He is still... Right now, he's going to have to hope for some luck here. In this point, I think he's still going to be able to gain some spots. He was still fairly quick, surprisingly, with that damage, but it's still going to be even more tough sledding because of that damage to get it on back now on the track, especially since he's not getting it fixed.
Certainly the case. Just kind of browsing to pit road here. It looks like Miller is the only one down there at the moment, that being Jeremy E. Miller, getting his repaired. He's somebody else who has gone front to back, which the 45 joins him from the speeding penalty. So a couple of occasions this evening. I would also almost maybe say more so than most weeks, Justin, where mistakes, individual mistakes, are causing the bulk of the issues. I know that the kind of consensus is with this rules package that the incidents are going to come from just drivers being unable to get away from each other as we see the lights go out on top of the pace car. And we did have a huge wreck, but pretty much everything this evening has stemmed from single car incidents.
And that's surprising to me, even, because most of the races you see at tracks like Pocono with the cautions end up being drivers trying to take a 3-wide into the first corner off restarts, trying to push side by side too aggressively through the tunnel turn, or in some cases 4-wide potentially, which is crazy in itself. It's just been absolutely just driver mistake. It was hit upon in the real world race after that one just in the past couple days. You could not afford to make any mistakes. Chalmers J. George said it himself. And right now the drivers have just beat themselves. You can't afford to beat yourself if you want to get this win. You have to focus up, be able to focus on your marks, and don't push the car too much to the point where you drive into the fence or lose control of your machine.
And we'll see if these drivers heed any of the advice. It'll be a 31 lap to go restart this time through. Still 21 cars on the lead lap in the Pocono Mountains 75. Of course, also, we hope you join us next week out when we go racing from MIS, the virtual Michigan International Speedway. Plays host to the 13th race of this 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. You can catch coverage of that one right back here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network, Monday, June the 10th. As always, 9 Eastern, the start. Not going to want to miss that one as we get to ever so more critical in the race to the 2019 playoffs. But at the task at hand, the pace car's off and away. It is another early jump for Andrew Farinas, and the 90 car read that one well. Eberhardt right there as well. Thinks about tucking in line. We'll see how the battle takes place. Still 2x2 to turn 1.
And I think this is a decent situation for Freenash, but everyone else, it's not a good situation. Jacoby, he caused a major checkup for Stanford, and he's now bouncing off cars, trying to come off the corner exit and dropping momentum.
See if he's going to get his footing underneath him here. Stanford runs on the inside line as they go into the tunnel turn. Bottom is not a place to be, although maybe with brand new tires you have a fighting chance, because Jacoby actually won that fight with Shackelford just in front of him. So the 3 car going to maintain, I think, what is 6th on track there. They single file out a little bit, and Stanford's doing all right. Got some momentum, thought about a move, but stays single file.
And look at what's going on now. For second, they're going 3-car bump drafting here. Something you usually see when drivers are trying to have fun at super speedways. They want to say, you gotta go, Eberhardt. We gotta try and catch up to Freenash. He's already pulled away. And it looks like they're saying, you know what? We gotta ditch him if we want to try and keep up with the 88 machine, because he was a full 0.6 of a second quicker.
Those team cars were working with each other, and you've got Cadell there as well. The Steel Horse entry, contact. The 03 of Dylan Jones is sideways. He'll hang on after he got pinched on the inside of the tunnel turn. Jonathan Cadell used him up.
And not only that, Jones actually also clipped the apron trying to get that rotation. And then the thing is, yes, it can help you turn off the tunnel turn a little bit if you time it up right. If you make contact, it makes you that much more loose, like we've seen in the real world race just yesterday. That ended up snapping him and loses a bunch of momentum in spots. He's still lucky to still have a race car. Jacoby nearly got squeezed to the fence the same time by Parrish.
The single file we are, and everybody hangs on. That incident could have been certainly a lot worse. Eberhardt wins out the battle for second. Cadell behind him in third. But Andrew Farinas has been able to get away now. He is a second ahead of P2 on back. He was not stellar on the long run last time, which is kind of the opposite of Andrew's MO. I mean, he's good, don't get me wrong. Short runs, long runs, everything in between. But typically you give him a lot of green flag laps out in front with clean air. He is gone. So we'll see Eberhardt and Cadell, knowing that, having seen him on a long run, how they play this. A half a second, just like that, evaporated from his advantage as Eberhardt now is back within 0.5.
And one of the things that was something I noticed throughout the week at Pocono is, Evan, if you're up but towards the front as the leader, you lose that much more time if someone's within 7/8 of you, because the draft ends up pulling the driver back in extra couple miles per hour each straightaway. So it's kind of that situation where, depending on how the race cycles out, you kind of want to be, to win the race, actually want to be at second towards the white flag because of the run you can get into turn number 1, because from then on out, you're able to defend for at least 3-4 laps after the pass. Freenash, it looks like it's just the effect of the draft starting to come in and help Eberhardt, because right now he's running 80, 184, 185 into the entry. Freenash just 183 because of that draft effect.
And it helps them stay within striking distance as 90 cars pulled away a little bit. Andrew Freenash, not a good run that time, but at turn 1 he got awfully tight and very close to the outside wall, struggling with some of that aero push. We're going to have 49 laps complete, and see, back to the point of Jones getting loose on the inside of the racetrack by using that apron. Freenash did the same thing there. So it appears that 2x2 the inside is not the place you want to be in a side-by-side battle, and I think it's mainly because you can't arc it into the corner. You're not starting wide, and you can't exit wide if there's a car there on your right-hand side. If you're single file and you can enter high, then you do want to go down to the bottom and get those left side tires down onto the apron. At least that's the mentality and the strategy that the 88 car is doing. So interesting. 2x2, bottom not the place to be. Single file, go high to low.
Yes, indeed. Cadell, though, he is dropping like a rock, and he nearly got ran over by both Jacoby and Jones that time with how tight he was and how much he had to get out of the gas.
You can see he's already lost 2 more positions. Shane Parrish around him. The number 12 of Skylar Shackleford around him as well. Cadell falls from 3rd to 5th, and may have been worse than that if that 03 Machina Jones didn't push him on the straightaway, because Jacoby looked pretty sporty coming up the inside. The 69 gets back up to speed, and of course these new cars, the limited horsepower, the increased downforce makes them a lot more susceptible to momentum. You lose momentum, it hurts. You can't just put the foot back down, get that boost like you could with the 2018 Cup car. So I think the 69 pretty fortunate to get away with only losing 2 spots there, because if he fell back here where Jacoby, Jones, and Stanford fought, then as we watch these 3 go at it, the 69 could have easily dropped all the way to P8.
Yeah, he could have dropped like a rock even more so. He's lucky to be able to get some breathing space now, get back to single file, and try and get himself back onto his tires, because he was overdriving them. The track temp is to its hottest point of the race as on top of that right now, but the caution's going to come out and everyone's going to get fresh rubber because a big one happened with Chambliss.
51 laps in, Brian Chambliss, the 45, is torn up. We will slow him down again, but it started in front of him, as the replay will show the 44 of Kurt Rittenberg, who we really haven't talked a ton about tonight, was actually on the outside in one of those 2x2 battles in the tunnel turn. The 24 car on his inside, Connor Horn, didn't really give him a ton of space there, and the 44 just completely missed the turn. He ended up into the outside wall. Somehow was able to not collect Andrew T. Jones. The 44 turned away from him to put himself in the fence. Unfortunately, though, bounced back down the racetrack and got smoked for the 45, and that's where the big contact came. Up and over went Rittenberg.
Yeah, there was nowhere for Chambliss to go at that point. Rittenberg, it looks like, might have claimed responsibility, it looks like, for that incident, because they were going side by side and knew that Horn was much more quicker, but it was a heck of an effort to make sure he didn't collect Andrew T. Jones. He just overcorrected trying to make sure he didn't hit Andrew T. Jones, slammed himself those couple times, as you mentioned, and just couldn't recover from then on out, because once he bounced the second time, he was just a passenger. He couldn't even lock it up, I don't think, without risking that. He was trying, but just, man, just absolutely horrific, unfortunately, especially for Chambliss, where that was not it. It looked like he had no expectation of that whatsoever. He only had a second to react.
We saw in that big wreck on the front straightaway, cars come into an incident late, they get damaged, oftentimes more than the cars originally involved in. We've hit a mess on the front end of the racetrack. We've now seen one on the back end. Pit stops once more. Again, these are not concerned for fuel. You can fill it up if you like how your race car handles with all that extra weight, but tires is the main priority. Clean into the box, the 88 car.
And this is going to be curious to see how Connor Horn especially jumps up, because he went up to 9th position at the time of that caution flag. And he's one of the first drivers out because he was the furthest back, not making the start. But we might see a potential battle for this pit exit. Freenosh just barely beat Eberhard, his teammate, out.
By a nose, it's the 88 to lead off of pit road. Eberhard second, Shackleford in third, and Shane Parrish loses a position. But don't sleep on the number 18 machine. He was the best car in practice earlier today. Qualified top 10, and I know that he's been a little bit quiet, but it's down the crunch time. Next restart going to be inside of 20 laps to go. think a handful of drivers still have an opportunity to walk away with the hardware in tonight's Pocono Mountain 75. But we've got a couple of laps of pacing to do as the field gets sorted back out under another caution flag here from the virtual Pocono Raceway. So what we'll do, we'll take a yellow flag of our own, step aside for a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll find out how the 12th race of the season is going to end. You're watching LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It's Andrew Freitas out in front at the moment. He is looking for race win number 5.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
My name is Steven Corpenos. I'm a senior web developer here at iRacing, and I work on the beta UI. It's funny because iRacing has been around for 10 years, but we want to keep delivering the best possible user experience to our customers, and we've found that the old UI isn't exactly what we're trying to deliver in 2018. We want to use new features and provide the best possible experience when using the sim. One of the projects that I've been working on is some custom heat racing configuration for hosted races. We've been listening to our customers. Everyone's been asking for custom heat races. Maybe you want to tweak a few things with the preset iRacing configurations. Well, now you can using the beta UI. So once you're at the homepage of the beta UI, you just go to create a race. Then from there you go to your set race options. And you'll notice here under event types, you can actually choose heat racing. First, I'm going to show you how to create a new format from scratch. You can choose the number of entrants. And as you can see, when I made that change, the change was actually reflected on the right side in the graph. Also, you can use the estimated duration at the bottom of the graph when you're changing the length to see what the total duration of your event will be. In addition, you can customize every aspect of the session information, practice, qualifying, heat races, consolations, and of course, the final feature race. Because the beta UI allows us to develop features that are robust and complex, this feature will be exclusively available on the beta UI. Once you've made all of the changes, you can hit save. Say you forgot what you selected. You can always preview it using the preview format button. We are very excited to release the brand new heat racing configuration feature that will be available in Season 3 of iRacing.
Once again, photo finish here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Holgate? It's going to be Christopher DeMerit at the line.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSR TV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of RealSimRacing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSR TV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Well, we're back live from the virtual Pocono Raceway, and you may notice the race car is no longer on the racetrack. Unfortunate timing there as we stepped aside and we were getting ready for a restart that would have less than 20 laps to go in this Pocono Mountain 75. However, a connection issue with the server is going to bring an end to this race. We always tend to compare the, individual server issues and connection issues with drivers as kind of the sim racing equivalent of, mechanical failures, difficult to control, and, when you have so many different people racing from all across the country and the continent and even the world that you can never guarantee that everybody stays together. However, this is an issue on the side of the race server, and per RSR policy, being the fact that it was basically the entire field, but RSR policy dictates that if it is more than half of the cars involved, that the race then has to be red flagged. And since we are past half distance in this race, that the race is therefore deemed official as of the last time by the start-finish line. All of the results are unofficial at the moment. We will go trackside and talk with our top finishers here in just a moment. And just confirm it again that this race has been called at lap number 54. So the completion of lap 53 is going to be the results. Race control is going to confirm them. So we do not have all of those official results for you now, but I can say that the unofficial top five is Andrew Farinars, Daniel Eberhardt, Skylar Shackelford, Shane Parrish, and Dylan Jones. It gets a little bit murkier from there on back, so not at all what we would be expected to be talking about just as of 5 minutes ago, and we haven't seen this happen on a Monday night in years. Of course, we've been covering real sim racing action here on LSR TV for the better part of going on 8+ years now, and it rarely happens. And tonight from Pocono, this race will end. I guess we'll say the skies have opened, the rain has come down, and we have lost the racetrack because this race is done as of the completion of lap 53.
I don't even know what to really say. I'm surprised. There was, again, no warning in terms of this. It looked like it might have been coming down to what could have been an exciting finish too. Unfortunate to see this happen, but I guess this is iRacing's version of a rainout, essentially. But for Andrew, he's at the very least the guy who ends up taking the victory for the 5th time this season, and is going to be able to add on to his points lead as a result.
Let's go trackside and chat with the driver of the number 88 machine. Andrew Farinars is your race winner tonight from the Pocono Raceway. And Andrew, you have won many races on Monday nights and therefore have found victory lane in quite a few different ways. But I don't know if many of them come this way as you're declared the winner at lap 53.
Yeah, I've never seen that one before. That's pretty cool. that ties me with Dwayne Vince for most all time, which is a really weird way to do it. I would have liked to finish it out because I think that was going to be a good race for the fans, but we'll take it.
I'm sure the racing gods will make sure that you work really hard for number 20, and it'll be a thrilling finish. It might be next week when we go racing from Michigan International Speedway. But I mean, just tell us about this race and how it played through. You guys started in the number 7 position. Not the greatest of qualifying efforts, but it didn't take you a ton of time to get up front, and it certainly looked like tires were on the forefront, which makes the finish a little bit less dramatic than I think it would have been because nobody stayed out there. Everybody was coming in, setting up for under the end of this race. I had made a mention there that I think it was maybe one of the only caution flags we've had, in the second half of this race where at least not one car stayed out, because if somebody stayed out, it'd probably be the winner now. But you came in, you got 4 tires. Obviously, that was the call to make at the time. Did you feel like you guys were in a good spot to race this one out?
Yeah, I mean, I say it every week, but I struggle all week, and this time it was really bad. Last night in NIS, I think I finished 26 seconds behind the leader in 26th, so I don't know where the speed came from tonight, but we were able to drive to the front and get to the lead, and yeah, I really did think Dylan and Daniel, I think, had quicker cars than me. I think they were just buying their time waiting there, so it would have been really interesting to see if we got a bunch of cautions or I could have held them off or what, but again, I don't know where the speed came from. It seems like we find something every Monday night, and that's really where I rest on that. I think they would have probably got by me if we went green, though.
To get this win, obviously, you continue your strong 2019, and you touched on this already to the point that we had brought up last week to be able to now tie Dwayne Vincent wins in this Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. It may be an unconventional way to do it, but for a series that has been going on as long as it has, we at LSR TV have seen many leagues come and go over the years. iRacing sees a lot of leagues come and go over the years to be able to reach that mark in this series that has been around since the very early days of iRacing broadcasts. What does it mean to you?
That's really, really cool, and I feel really humbled to have the opportunity. A big thanks to Dave Washington, and especially Dylan Jones tonight. He sat down with me last night and tried to figure this track out, and this wouldn't be possible without Dave and all the team over there. But yeah, I did the numbers earlier in the year, and I thought maybe next season it might be possible because we were within 5 or 6 of tying him. But we just had a really good start to the season, and it means a lot. Just I've raced against Dwayne. He's a really good guy and a really, really good racer, and he's been here since the start. So just to tie him is really cool. But I really do want to pass him, so we'll look forward to trying to do that.
There's a lot of guys who have good runs, have fast race cars, and don't get wins or don't get the amount of wins that maybe their on-track performance dictates. When you're able to get the job done on weeks where you feel like you may not have the best car or didn't anticipate to be able to close out the uncertain ones and win the ones that you should. On top of that, I'm sure that has to give you a ton of confidence in your abilities.
Yeah, I felt like last year we gave a few away, and last year pretty much I felt we won the races that we should have and really didn't capitalize on anything else. This year we've won the races we should and gotten lucky on a few of them, so it feels really, really good to finally have those wins. I think those really feel the best when you're running second or third and something happens to the guy in front of you, as unfortunate as it is, and you end up in victory lane.
It isn't over till it's over, and tonight it came about 19 laps before we thought it would, but this race comes to a conclusion, and you get the race win tonight from the Tricky Triangle, tying the most wins in series history. As noted, I know it was a shorter night, but we're not going to take up any extra of your time. We are grateful for it, Andrew. Sponsors, shout-outs, all of the good folks who makes this possible.
Yeah, just want to say thanks to all the fans. You guys are broadcasting. I love watching every week. Everybody at Aegis, especially Dave Washington, brought me over at the start and to tie the all-time record like we covered. It's really cool. Dylan Jones, like I said, he helped me out last night, and I guess that's where I got the speed from. Daniel Everhart, good to see him back. Him getting second. Eric Stanford, Kyle Kammer, Sean Kalis, everybody over there. My brother puts the computers together. I think I already said all the fans. Shout out to, I think it was Thomas George that blew up in the lead, shifting, but he had a good car. I think he would have been hard to pass. That's a shame we didn't get to race him. But other than that, I think that's about it.
The race winner tonight from the Pocono Raceway, Andrew. We appreciate the time as always. Congratulations, and we look forward to the celebration after the next one.
Hey, thanks so much.
Coming out on top tonight in the Pocono Mountains at 75. It was a second place finish in this one for Daniel Eberhardt, making his return to Monday Night Racing. Justin, I know he felt like he was going to have a great opportunity to get this win tonight, to at least fight for it. Doesn't get the opportunity. He ends up second position, and your track side with him.
Yes, indeed, Daniel. A weird race to end up coming away in second, and basically, though, you were starting to gain some speed with the draft, working with some of your teammates, in fact, before that last yellow flag. Talk us through the effort to try and continue to try and catch up to Andrew Freenosh in this one.
I really don't know what I could have done different. It's so hard. Feels like you're in a pocket of air with the package that we have. You're getting up to him and you get close enough, but if I shoot to the inside, it's like the inside has no momentum coming off the corner. So there's really nothing you can do unless he makes a mistake. So I had to really be patient and wait for a mistake. And I was hoping that them final 21 laps at the end that I could get him, but the server had other plans for tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately, it started thundering in the middle of that last caution flag, it appears. Well, the iRacing equivalent, you can at least say. But let's talk about the difficulties to try and pass, or if there was any difficulties, because you started off in ninth tonight. You came away, of course, in second. How difficult was it to try and make your way up to the front, especially as some of the long green flag runs happen, as the tires started wearing off and the fall-off reached as much as 3 seconds?
I would say this package is only good for one thing, and that's restarts. I mean, there's no really skill level, I would say, to it. There's a certain kind of skill. There's a skill level to everything. Don't get me wrong on that, but it's more in the hands of what you do with the gas pedal and how you hold the steering wheel. I mean, there's nothing else you can really do, and the restarts are exciting. And that's where you're gonna have to make up your most time, and you can wear out the tires, it seems like, but to me it's just you got to have longevity at the end of the race, and this package really allows anybody to have that. So you could easily see for the rest of the season at least 4 or 5 cars going at it at the end of each race.
Yes, indeed, at this point, and it looked like that kind of a case with a lot of cars going at it towards this before this situation. Next week, though, we head off to a completely different track in Michigan, and a lot of the drivers in real life have described it similar to what we may see, say, at a Kansas kind of a race. What are you expecting when we head off to Michigan, a 2-mile circuit with similar banking to this racetrack?
I would say Michigan's probably going to be a full throttle for maybe 2 or 3 laps. I mean, or you're going to just really just ease out of the throttle and not come completely off the gas. But I think Michigan's going to see you have long straightaways there, especially down the front straightaway. I think you're going to see a lot of pushing and shoving. I think there's going to be a lot of drafting, and I think that's what's going to make it really exciting. And I don't think you'll see, how somebody shoots to the bottom of the track. I think you'll see a lot of blocking. I think you'll see everybody up against the wall trying to shove, because now it really doesn't matter if you shoot to the bottom or the outside. If you have the run and you have somebody pushing behind you, you're going to clear that guy going off into the next corner.
Indeed, I actually agree with that, but that likelihood, of course, or what we've seen in the package at the different variations of the racetrack so far with it. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go, though, Daniel, tonight? Because, of course, it's your first race back in a few weeks via suspension and a strong performance. Who would you like to thank for being a part of your car for what is a Team 1-2?
I want to thank all the guys at Aegis, Andrew, Dave, Dylan, Eric, Kamer, Sean Kalis, Shane Parrish. It's fun racing with them each and every week. I got to thank my girlfriend for allowing me to do this and watching every time I try to race, but I've just been really busy, and with that suspension and putting me out, I ain't really been around, but I'm back and I felt good tonight, and a lot of confidence going into the next race.
Good that you have the confidence. Let's see if it ends up carrying to victory lane for next week in Michigan. Thank you very much for the time, Daniel.
Thank you.
That was Daniel Eberhardt. He came away in second today. And I believe the man who came away in third, Evan, is also standing by. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's also his birthday, believe it or not, today.
Well, it's a third place finish for the driver of the number 12 machine, and I think Skylar Shackelford also falls into the boat of drivers who felt like that they had something to give, that this race was not over. They had 20 laps to make some noise, fight for the race win, and Skylar, I know unfortunately you don't get the opportunity to do so, but it is still a good result from Pocono. How do you kind of swallow the way this one ends?
I mean, you always want the races to go to the end. I think everybody watching wants them to go to the end, but that's just what happens sometimes, I guess. But overall, it was a good race. I think I started like 19th because I chose not to qualify because the last few weeks I haven't had the results I've been looking for when I did qualify, so I figured maybe I'd change it up a bit, and it seemed to work tonight. I think that it was really hard to pass when you were in the back because it was really tight with the air, and I feel like the best way to pass somebody was to get on the outside, to be honest.
We saw the three very different corners of Pocono kind of play with things. A lot of drivers were talking about how tight the conditions were. A lot of people getting up and into the wall on their own accord. In fact, I know while some of them ended up being big incidents, they started as just somebody getting up and into the fence on their own. So for you to be able to go 19th to 3rd in the time that you were given this evening, without wrecking that race car, what did you have figured out that maybe some other drivers hadn't quite got their finger on yet?
I noticed that if I would back up the entrance to the turns, especially the tunnel turn in turn 1, I could get a great launch down the back straightaway, and it would allow me to get positioning on him to the next turn. And the guys that were hitting the wall, actually somebody hit in front of me earlier in the race, what would happen is they'd just drive it in there too hard and get on the gas a little too early and just wash up into the wall. And when you're washing up, it's hard to control anything. You're pretty much just going to hit it every time.
Well, it is a good result for you this evening, and you continue to improve, that much closer, I think, for both you and everybody else on the HBR team have been getting, up to that level these last 2 weeks. It hasn't turned into a trip to victory lane yet, but the next opportunity comes at MIS next Monday night. Do we see it then?
Well, I'd like to hope so. Michigan's is a home track for me in real life, so it'd be cool to win on here. And, I mean, my teammate did win the All-Star race, and I feel like, apparently, at least with me, that I'm either going to finish 3rd or I'm going to wreck every week. That seems to be the pattern I got going for me. So, probably next week I'll either wreck or maybe I'll win, but I'll probably finish 3rd.
Well, for your sake, we hope that you're around at the end and we get an opportunity to chat with you again. We'll let you get out of here, Skylar. Before we do, anybody else you want to say hi to who brings that 12th car to the racetrack?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all my teammates. We've worked really well together this whole year. Even though sometimes we get into it on the racetrack, we still leave there happy with each other and willing to work together the next week. I'd like to thank my buddy Zach. He's my spotter tonight, and he also paints all my cars every week that I bring to the track. And I'd like to give a big thanks to Hammer Bowling and Berlin Raceway, as they're always on my car. They've been a huge support to me, and I really appreciate that. And also, this isn't relevant, but it's also my birthday today, so that was a good finish.
Well, happy birthday. I know you would have liked to have been able to fight for that one and celebrate your first win on your birthday, but it's still a good result. We'll give you the shout out on the broadcast, and Skylar, we tell everybody we appreciate you guys supporting the series. We appreciate it when you give us time post race. Congrats again on the result, and we'll see you when we do it again next week.
All right, sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
Driver of the number 12 Chevrolet. It is a 3rd place tonight for Skylar Shackelford, and rounds out your podium. Big thanks to him, Daniel Eberhardt, and Andrew Friedage for sticking around and chatting with us in a race from Pocono that was a lot shorter than we thought it would be. And I do think that it is important to note, Justin, that in the world of internet connection and the uncertainty that it's a race ending like this is so rare. That again, we haven't seen it in years, and we cover plenty amount of races here on LSR TV and on the iRacing Sports Network. One of those things, it happens, and we'll pick up. But again, look for an exciting race at MIS next week.
Yeah, these things happen when it comes to the internet age, as you hit upon. The most I've seen it happen is with a couple drivers in an official race. I've never seen it happen in this kind of a situation. But that being said, sometimes you need to be prepared for the unexpected, and of course, everyone is prepared to figure out where to go from here in this case. Now it's about trying to keep focus at this point and not trying to keep your mind on this because it's a completely different race next week, a completely different track, where with the newly repaved Michigan scan that we've seen implemented last year, we might see, as hit upon, drivers going full throttle throughout the first few laps of the race. We're, of course, going to see drivers have to get off the gas, but it's going to be similar to what we've seen with California. Lots of potential drafts, lots of slingshots, lots of side-by-side action. It could be a very intense race next week.
And we certainly hope you join us next time out, but until then, that does it for us here tonight from Pocono. Round number 12 of this 2019 campaign falls into our rearview mirror. As we step aside, as always, want to thank all of the people at LSR TV who make these broadcasts possible. You can keep up to date with us by following us over on Twitter at LSR TV, and you can also give us a like at facebook.com/LSR TV official. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince and Brett Wheeler, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Andrew Freitas. Another race win, number 5 for him on this 2019 campaign. The series is back in action next Monday night. That's June the 10th with the 9 Eastern start for the virtual Michigan International Speedway. That race and every race of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, going to be found right here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Pocono.